Hello. So a lot of you guys seem to really like my last video sharing my favorite philosophy books, which means a lot to me and makes me very happy because it is a genre that not only is my favorite genre, but it just means a lot to me and I hold it very close to my heart. Philosophy and classic literature and just being able to talk about books is probably my favorite thing to do. Philosophy, perfume, prose. I really like that. I love an alliteration. I thought for today's video, I'm going to be talking about Clarice Lispector later on. A lot about her. She's one of my favorite authors of all time, so excited to share about her. And then I'm going to talk about my February favorites. I love favorites videos. I think we all love them. I think that's the general consensus, right? Like they're so calming and comforting and therapeutic, and I love watching girls talk about what they love. Everything. Books, films, snacks, skincare, beauty, everything. Home stuff, candles, perfume. I might have already said that already. But yeah, I love watching them, so I'm going to create one. And I think that will be a whole cohesive, succinct video for you to enjoy over the weekend as you are eating breakfast in bed or having a snack on the couch or doing whatever it is that you do to decompress and have an amazing, relaxing, comforting, relaxful. Okay, that's a new word. Whatever you do to unwind, to enjoy your weekend. Yeah. I've gotten a lot of requests to highlight Clarice Lispector. She is arguably one of my favorite authors of all time. I think reading her was probably the first time where I felt the most understood by an author, which I guess says a lot about me. But I love her, and I think that not enough people appreciate or know her work as well as they should. And like I said, lots of people had interest in me doing a video completely dedicated to Clarice, which is music to my ears because if I could talk about an author all day, it would certainly be Clarice Lispector. I have just about every single one of her books. Fun fact is that she actually wrote 2 children's books that are going to be released, I believe, this spring, and I begged on my hands and knees the publishers to send me an ARC of them because I love children's literature and I would love nothing more than to read a children's book written by Clarice Lispector. So I'm going to go over some of her books and just tell you guys a little bit more about her, and hopefully will convince you to dive into some of her work. There are writers who tell stories, and then there are writers who completely dismantle everything that you think a story is supposed to be. And Clarice Lispector is certainly the latter. She doesn't just write, she excavates in everything that she creates. And I feel like reading her it feels like you're staring into a mirror until your own reflection becomes unrecognizable. I feel like she's also impossible to categorize. She is Brazilian, Jewish, an outsider, a woman who never quite really belonged anywhere. Her family fled in Ukraine. Her mother was also paralyzed from syphilis, and she was told from a very young age that she was born to be her mother's cure. And whether or not she ever really believed that, the weight of it is felt in her work. Her writing is haunted by the idea of salvation and what it means to suffer, to atone, to be devoured by God. And there's this famous story about a journalist interviewing her for the first time, and I think he expected some terrifying mystical creature because who else could write like this? And instead he met this beautiful woman, chain smoking, bored, entirely uninterested in explaining herself and who she is as a person. And that is Clarice. She is unknowable and uninterested in being known, and her books don't have traditional plots or neat endings. They're not interested in satisfying the reader. They unravel consciousness in real time and capture exact moments when life suddenly feels too much, when eating an apple becomes a revelation, and when staring at a cockroach sends you into an existential crisis, and when drinking a glass of milk forces you to confront the meaning of life. She is less concerned with narrative and more concerned with being and what it means to exist in a body, to think, to feel, to reach towards something that is just beyond language. Her books make you feel like you are thinking thoughts that you were never meant to articulate, like she's writing from some raw, unfiltered place that most of us are too afraid to go. So let's talk about some of her books. The Hour of the Star is her final novel and possibly her most famous, and it follows Macabea, who is a poor, unremarkable girl living in Rio, but the real story is in the telling. The narrator, Rodrigo, is a very interesting character. He keeps interrupting and agonizing over how to tell her story, essentially, questioning whether it even matters. It's brutal and fragmented and deeply self-aware. And fun fact, Clarice was actually dying when she wrote this, and you can feel her sense of urgency in every sentence in this book. The Passion, according to GH, is her most terrifying book. It's about a wealthy woman who crushes a cockroach in her maid's room, and it sends her into a full-blown existential unraveling. It's about God. It's about the horror of existence. It's about staring into the abyss and realizing that the abyss is you. It reads like a fever dream, like a mystical revelation that you're not quite sure if this is whether or not you wanted out of a book. I actually recommend this to start with if you're new to her work. Agua Viva is Clarice at her most distilled. There is no plot. It is just a woman speaking directly to the reader. Time dissolves and it's hypnotic and existential, and this is one of those books that you don't really read it. I feel like it's more of an experience than anything else. Near to the Wild Heart is her debut novel, and it was written when she was 23 years old, and it already contains everything that makes her so brilliant. It follows Joanna, who is a woman who refuses to be defined by morality or expectation. It's less about plot and more about the movement of thought itself, what it means to be alive, to question, to desire, to destroy. And when it was published, critics said that it was more intelligent than Joyce herself. The Apple in the Dark, which I don't have with me, is one of her most challenging novels, but also one of the most rewarding. And it follows Martin, who is a man on the run after committing a crime. He wanders through an unfamiliar landscape, and this is Clarice at her most philosophical, meditating on guilt, redemption, and the idea that language itself is always failing us. An Apprenticeship, or The Book of Delights. This is one of an oddly joyful, at least by Clarice's standards, one of her novels. It follows Lou, who is a woman who moves through different relationships, searching for meaning and identity. It's a book about transformation and how love and loss shape us as humans. It's about the beauty of becoming an individual existing on this earth. The Chandelier, which I don't own, but I will be getting it very soon, is her most difficult book, but it is also her most hypnotic. It follows Virginia, who is a woman trapped in memory. She is lost in the labyrinth of her own mind. And this is Clarice at her most experimental. Long, winding sentences that seem to fold in on themselves. A plot that barely exists. but is so deep and unsettling in its solitude. A Breath of Life. This is like reading Clarice's mind unraveling in real time. It is a dialogue between a narrator and his female creation, but really it is a meditation on death and on writing and on the act of creation itself. The last lines of this book are devastating, and she says, "I will only have completed my life when I die." This is another book that I recommend starting with if you are new to Clarice. I own 2 copies of this book with 2 covers, but I really I'm not gonna demonstrate this here because I don't know if I can, but all 4 of these books, these 2, and these 2, they all create a face, which I wish came in like an art print because I would really like to have that framed. The other book that I have here is Too Much of Life, and this is almost like her diary, or her diaries, I should say. They're little vignettes and little snippets of her life and of her mind throughout the span of almost a decade. Not quite a decade, half of a decade, we'll say. But I really, really loved this one as well. And then I also have her complete stories, which are essentially short stories that she's written over the years. Lots of them. This is brilliant. This is absolutely brilliant. And I think this is really approachable as well if you're new to her work and you just want to read little bite-sized pieces of the way that she writes, her style. This is another great one to start with. And you don't have to read the whole thing. I think you can approach this like you would like a journal, something like the Paris Review, where you can skim through it and pick articles and essays and interviews that really speak to you or that really stand out to you. So Clarice was one of the most radical writers of the 20th century, and yet she is still not talked about nearly enough. She wrote like nobody else, especially in her time. She didn't care about structure or convention. She really cared about the truth and about capturing the exact moment when life reveals itself to be both unbearable and beautiful at the same time. She is really the kind of writer that you don't passively read. She has a way of getting under your skin, and she also has a way of changing the way that you think. And if you have not read her yet, like I said, I would start with The Hour of the Star or The Passion, according to GH, or maybe A Breath of Life. But be prepared, because Clarice Lispector does not leave you unchanged. Some of her books can kind of cause you to fall into a deep existential crisis, but it is worth it as long as you know how to get yourself out of it. It's funny because Alex, who is also known as Soggy Rice 3 on all of her social platforms, brilliant, by the way, I highly recommend, and go subscribe to her YouTube channel because she is lovely. But in her last video, she talked about existential philosophy. But what I found interesting was that she had a segment of how to get out of it, how to get out of an existential crisis, and the antidote is Stoicism, which I highly, highly agree with, reading Stoicism and also children's literature, which her and I have a lot of similarities with our favorites, especially with our love for The Little Prince. But I think that's important anytime you read darker literature, is to kind of know how to get yourself out of a dark mindset when you're done reading it. But I hope this helps. I love Clarice, and I was actually so surprised and excited the amount of people who asked me to speak about her, because I'll never shut up about her. And one day, when I get my black cat, I will name her Clarice, after Clarice Lispector. Ideally, I feel like it would be really cute to have 2 black kitties, one named Clarice and one named Anais. That's kind of like my dream situation. But anyways, I hope that you enjoyed this segment of this video, and I promise you that there is something in this like stack of books by Clarice that will speak to you. One of them will, I promise you. Just do your research and start with one that really speaks to you and that really sparks your interest, and it will leave you unchanged. I've also been thinking a lot about comfort creators and women who I have been following that have just brought me like so much peace and calm and comfort in my day. Because like it's not very calm and comforting and warm and fuzzy up here, and like this wave of women who have started YouTube channels over the past like month and a half of like, I think honestly what prompted it definitely prompted me to want to start a YouTube channel was like the TikTok ban, right? So all of my favorite TikTok creators came to YouTube to make long form content, and it's literally been the best thing ever. Like I love it. I would much rather unwind watching my favorite creators on here than I would with like a TV show. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but I did want to take some time to maybe like share a few creators who I've just really enjoyed watching that I think you would really love as well. And I'll tag them in my little description for ease for you guys to go find them on your own time. So in no particular order, Cami Reviews. She is mostly on TikTok, but she just started a YouTube channel, and I love hearing her talk about perfumes, and when she reviews gummies, so niche, but I love it a lot. I think you'll love her too. Grocery Goblin, who I have been following for a while, but I have like a huge parasocial crush on this girl, and she lives in Europe, and she's like a cheese monger. I think that's how you say it. But she talks about different cheeses and teas and like her pairings with cheese and different foods, and sometimes she talks about books. But I love her. I love all of the content she creates. She's very genuine, like a very genuine, pure person, and I wish to be her friend. Melissa, who I'm sure all of you guys are following, she is the post office girl and Beware of Pity on TikTok and Instagram, but her YouTube videos are so comforting. She reminds me of a princess, and I mean that in the best way possible, where I just feel like she is living in her own world and we are bystanders. Like she has created this calm, serene, comforting sanctuary where like animals love her, and she reads books, and she's educated, and she's smart and beautiful, and like I love her videos. And if you are not following her already, go definitely do that. Lauren Louise, aka Big Book Lady, I love her. I've also been following her since like 2020, when I think everybody started doing TikToks and stuff. Another huge parasocial crush. She is stunning, very well spoken. She talks about books and lots of like very comforting niche food things, and her videos are very cinematic and ambient and comforting. I love watching her videos, and her home is super cozy too. Like I love looking at all of her decor, and her cat Joni is adorable, so highly recommend her. I also really love following Sundays in the Library. I'm new actually to her page, but I'm like slowly getting to know her, and we love a lot of the same stuff, which I love. I love when other creators enjoy the same thing. Like I love watching her videos, and they're very comforting as well. She also lives in New York City, and she did a video recently where like she took herself to the Met for Valentine's Day. Anyways, amazing taste in literature too. So she's definitely worth the follow. I know I talk a lot about Alex, Soggy Rice 3, but she is like the most ethereal, beautiful human, and she reminds me of like a fairy, like in the best way. Like she's just so cute and bubbly, and like the way that she talks about literature is so brilliant, and we also really share a same affinity for philosophy. But she's amazing. Another super comforting creator, so I highly recommend going to watch her videos. And also Geneva, who I actually found through Melissa, but I love her videos because I feel like she highlights food a lot, and gardening, and very cozy day in the life, but like any food content, like I love food content. I love food creators, but she has very cinematic, comforting, cozy, foodie, aesthetically pleasing videos. And she is based in Chicago. So I love the seasonality of her content as well. So yeah, I'm sure there's more, but those are just top of mind and you should go support them. Highly, highly recommend. I've had a really great month of favorites, and these are kind of like some of my favorite videos to watch on YouTube and on TikTok, is just watching people talk about the things that they loved in whatever month that we're in. I'm not gonna dive super deep into each book as far as like what they're about, but I do want to just kind of like rapid fire share a bunch of different things that I've been enjoying. Everything from books to music to films to snacks to candles, fragrance, all of that. So I think I'll start with books. Henry and June by Anais Nin is definitely a reread for me, but I picked her up because it was Valentine's Day and this is my favorite Anais Nin book. And if you're new to her work, I highly recommend starting with this one. It's basically just Anais's letters to Henry and their kind of love affair, but also Anais's infatuation and love for June, Henry's wife. So I love this, highly recommend. The next book, this is probably one of my favorite books that I've read in a while. And I think it's because this is The Nun by Dennis Diderot. And I think it's because I have been on a very like strange religious journey, because I feel like I am healing a lot of religious trauma that I was brought up with. Half of my upbringing was Seventh-day Adventist, the other half was Catholic, and I was in private religious schools pretty much my whole life. And so I've been on this very like personal journey with all of this, and it's very strange and intimate, and this felt healing to me. It's basically about a girl who is forced into a convent, and a lot of crazy, insane, traumatic things happen to her. I could not put this down. And speaking of religious, sacrilegious, Catholicism as an aesthetic type of books, I am also reading this. I'm almost finished with this. It's Saint Teresa of Avila, and this has been fascinating to me. Saint Teresa was a saint, and she is very much like rooted in intuition and mysticism and all of these like otherworldly type of abilities that she has. It's just very interesting, her story, some of like the experiences that she goes through, and just reading about her life as a nun and her life like being dedicated to the Catholic Church. And this one, the collected essays from James Baldwin. I love James Baldwin. I actually picked this up because of Melissa. Giovanni's Room is one of my favorite books, and Baldwin's writing is just stunning. And I am making my way through each essay. I'm not finished with this, so I'm kind of cheating, but I feel like I enjoy this because you can pick and choose what you're in the mood to read and what you're feeling. You don't have to dedicate yourself to this entire thing. You could just kind of like pick it up as a morning devotion, if you will. Highly recommend this. Again, I'm not all the way through with it, but from the essays that I've read, it's James Baldwin. Like, he can do no wrong. His writing is stunning. His prose are stunning. And I feel like it just, everything that he writes teaches you something about yourself, the world around you, how you can just be a better human, which I love in literature. Anne Carson, I'm new to her work. I read Eros the Bittersweet, which I loved. If you're into Greek mythology or philosophy, you will really enjoy this. In this one, she kind of like intertwines theater with prose, with poetry. Again, there's a lot of like Greek mythology kind of rooted in this, philosophy, heavy on the philosophy rooted in this, and just the way that she writes is very unique, very similar to Clarice Lispector, and just this genre-defying, language bending type of way, if that makes sense. Decreation, Anne Carson, this is brilliant. This is addictive. This is interesting. And I really, really love that. Let's get into films. I made some notes on my iPad because I can't remember anything. Conclave, I just watched that recently. The one from 2024, last year. It's nominated for Oscars and all this other stuff. Very good. It's basically like the Vatican and the politics of the Vatican as they elect a new pope, with a very heartwarming twist at the end. I loved this movie, especially because I'm deep in my religious healing era. I loved this film. I kind of wish that there was a little bit more drama, horror, like I wanted just a little bit more. But I did love the film, and I love Stanley Tucci, so I do recommend it. And I watched Possession from 1981. This is like one of my favorite films. I watched it on Valentine's Day, so what does that say about me? I watched My Night at Maud's from 1969. I watched Belle de Jour, the one with Catherine Deneuve, another rewatch, but just one of my favorite films of hers. That one's dark, but I love it. I watched The Witch, which is a Robert Eggers film with Anya Taylor-Joy. Very dark film, loved that. I also watched Ratatouille, which is arguably the best Pixar movie of all time, in my opinion. And I watched 101 Dalmatians, the original one from the 60s, which feels quintessentially winter. I love old Disney, and I love old Disney that is done right. I will be the first to admit that I really love Cinderella. I love Peter Pan. I know it's problematic. I still very much enjoy that film. Which reminds me, I also listened to the book Monsters by Claire Dederer. And she basically talks about, she also wrote an essay in the Paris Review called What Do We Do with the Art of Monstrous Men? And it's basically asking you the question, as the consumer of art, what do you do when you are trying to consume art by people who are extremely problematic or who have done horrendous things? For example, I was devastated when I found out about the allegations and the accusations of Neil Gaiman, because Coraline is one of my favorite books of all time. It's one of my favorite films of all time. I think for children's literature, it is so brilliantly done. And when I read about all of the things that have been in the news, stirring in the news about Neil Gaiman, it hit me right here. It hit me right here. I was gutted, and I asked myself, how can I possibly watch Coraline and talk about Coraline and promote Coraline by someone who is as sick and disgusting as Neil Gaiman? I don't know, and I don't have the answer. But I've been thinking about it a lot, frequently. Just this past year when all of that stuff came out. I did like that book, by the way, Monsters by Claire Dederer. I liked the article a lot. I highly recommend the article. Okay, so that's films. And then for music, I have been, so like, again, piggybacking off of my like religious traumatic childhood healing experience journey, whatever you want to call it, I've been listening to Gregorian chant, specifically by female voices, which I have found weirdly therapeutic and healing. I have been loving the Norman Luboff choir, which, if you're familiar with like classic Christmas music, like Bing Crosby and that type of like crooner, old, nostalgic, like there's this one YouTube channel called Listening to Oldies at Your Grandma's House on a vintage radio playing in another room and it's raining. I love that. It is a portal into the most comforting nostalgia that you will ever experience. And I've been loving that, especially in the winter, especially like on a rainy day. It's perfect. Okay, other music that I've been enjoying. I love classical music and I love jazz. That kind of like remains constant. So nothing super new and out of the ordinary with that. I do love grouper. If you're into like very melancholic, indie, sad, haunting type of music, I think that you would really love grouper. And there are 2 podcasts that I have stumbled upon this month. One of them is called Classical Stuff You Should Know, which if you love philosophy or classic literature, I'm like losing my voice. I think you would really enjoy that. So it's called Classical Stuff You Should Know. And then also Great Women Artists podcast. I've been loving that one too. But like in Classical Stuff You Should Know, they cover Plato, they cover Homer, they cover Frankenstein, they cover, what did they do? They did one on Dostoevsky recently. They did one on Middlemarch, I think. I don't know, but it's all classical philosophy, that type of stuff. So if you're into that, I highly recommend it. If you love philosophy, I recommend Philosophize This with Stephen West, the best philosophy podcast out there. Okay, candles. I only have 2 that I'm going to recommend you that I really, really loved this month. And Byredo has like, they have incredible candles. I actually really like their candles so much more than their fragrances. Cotton Poplin is a beautiful, calming chamomile, tonka bean, fresh laundry type of smell that is perfect for spring. I've been loving this, especially in the daytime. The antithesis of Cotton Poplin is Altar, and this I think has landed a top spot in some of my favorite candles of all time. It reminds me of Halloween. I know we're not in autumn, but I'm an autumn winter girl. It reminds me of Halloween time when you're really excited about the season approaching and you're going to the craft store and they just set out all of their Halloween decorations, and it's like a weird, witchy, vanilla, but like woodsy, incensey. It also reminds me of a church, a Catholic church on a stormy day in an architecturally historical, beautiful cathedral. And they just lit all the candles and they're burning the incense, but it's not gross, overpowering incense. It's like the perfect balance. I love this, and I cannot wait to pull this out again in the fall time. This is going to be my fall candle for sure. So I got another 13 this month, and I was avoiding this fragrance because it's been like overhyped a lot, and I already liked Tay Noir 29, so I wasn't in the market to find something like this. But the salesperson was like, you love Molecule, that's one of my favorite fragrances of all time, you should try another 13. And I was like, no, I don't want to. And then anyways, he seduced me into trying this, and I ended up falling in love with it because it's similar to Molecule, but it just has this like je ne sais quoi. It's very addictive. It's very, anyways, watch the video that I made on my TikTok about this. I also got the oil because I really love their balm, their perfume liquid balms. I feel like they make the fragrances last a lot longer, and it really enhances the fragrance, in my opinion. It makes it just, I don't know, it makes it last a lot longer, and it makes it warmer. if that makes sense. I also never really tried their lotions before, but I wanted to squeeze out the last bits of winter to highlight Thé Noir 29, and I love the lotion. It's very comforting, and I feel like this would be perfect to wear for bed. Yeah, I love this lotion so much. I liked this lotion better than Another 13, and then I also got the Hinoki hand soap because I love Hinoki, and I feel like this is a great bathroom scent to have. I know a lot of people have like the Aesop ones, which are great, but this is just a little bit different. And then I like their basil one for the kitchen, but the Hinoki is very comforting. It's a very woody scent, and I can like see being okay all year round because it's very fresh. It's like a very fresh woody hand soap. The only beauty thing that I have that I've already like kind of talked about is the Ole Henriksen Peptide Lip Balm, which is the best lip balm you will ever try in your life. It's not sticky, it's very nourishing, but get the creme brulee one. It's the brown one. This is the strawberry. It's good. It tastes like strawberry and sugar, but get the creme brulee. You will not be disappointed. These like philosopher undies from Cuckoo Intimates are super cute. I got these for myself for Valentine's Day. They're always sold out, but they had them in stock, and so I got them because satire maybe. I don't know, but they're super cute. I also got these socks from this brand called Double Sole, and I discovered these through Orion Carlotto, and they're actually really comfortable. But these ones say lamb. So if you're wearing a pair of Mary Janes, like this lettering will just peek out between the strap and the toe, which I thought was really cute. And then it came in like a 3-pack. So these have like little deer prints on it, which I thought was really cute. And my favorite ones are these. They're navy and they say well red. One foot says well and the other one says red, which I thought was very cute and very fitting. I've had Audley boxers on my wish list for well over a year, and they finally re-released my favorite print. I love this plaid. It's a little like autumnal and wintry, but I love it, and these are very comfortable. They're very soft, perfect for bed, perfect for summer, so I love this. And then I also very much love this Salter House Wendy night dress that I'm wearing right now. I love like the sleeves, the detail here, and then they also embroider. There's like a little lamb embroidered at the bottom, which I really love. I love their nightgowns so much, and they make me feel like a ghost, like a ghostly, gothic, Victorian princess. So I love their nightgowns. I highly recommend. And the little little horse comb that I got. I love collecting like little like trinkets and antique things that I can put on my altar up here, my bookshelf. And I got a few other trinkets this month that I've been really loving, but this horse comb I thought was really, really, really sweet and really cute. And then before I move into snacks, I was very recently and generously gifted this notebook from Paper Republic, and I haven't played with it yet, but I love the leather, and they put my initial on the bottom corner, and I love like the square grid paper, so I'm really excited to try this one out as well. Okay, this is the last category, snacks. I love the Bellwether Farms sheep milk yogurt. This is very, very good. I also like the Icelandic Provisions yogurt, but this has been very good. The other thing that I've really been enjoying, I just bought like a full-size container of this, and this is a fig spread that you can put on toast with like a brie cheese. And this, I have been living off of like charcuterie snack plates. I don't know how to explain it. I'm addicted to them. Just a plate of like grapes, cheese, figs, pomegranate seeds, crackers, nuts, olives. Like there is nothing, please convince me There is nothing on this earth better than a very extravagant snack plate. They're the best. It feels very Dionysian and almost hedonistic to just indulge in that type of snack plate, all for yourself. I don't know how to explain it, but it makes sense to me. Next snack that I hope I can turn you on to. I just got a new thing of dates, but they're not just dates. What you do is you get a date and you pit it, make sure to take the pit out. And then my favorite almond butter, I got a brand new jar of this Artisana almond butter. It's the best brand. It's expensive, but it's so good, it's so worth it. You stuff the date with almond butter. You take dark chocolate, melt it, and you drizzle dark chocolate over the almond butter stuffed date. You sprinkle a little bit of sea salt on it and you put it in the freezer. And then you have the perfect sweet treat to have any time of day. I always have to have a sweet treat before bed. Always. The last thing that I eat has to be sweet. And normally I'm not like a super sweet tooth type of person. I like savory snacks, but there's something about having a sweet treat before bed. Whether it's like dark chocolate or ice cream, something sweet. But I love this snack so much. The last snack item are these tins from Trader Joe's, and I hope that you live near Trader Joe's because these are the most convenient, easy, healthy, delicious things that you can whip up for dinner or lunch anytime. If you're a student, if you work a lot, if you're both, if you're nothing, it doesn't matter. They're perfect. I love these. These are like Greek-inspired parsley, cumin, chickpeas. Eggplant with tomatoes and onions, perfect over rice. Beans in a tomato sauce, beans on toast, perfect. And grape leaves, which I love. I really, really love Mediterranean food. And they taste incredible and they're super easy to eat. You literally just like open the can and you have a snack. I lied. I have one more snack that I want to recommend. I went to this store in Brooklyn, this Japanese store, and I found these taro sticks. And what's so funny is, I don't know if you know Cami Reviews on TikTok. She just made a YouTube channel. But she spoke about these, and I've never seen anybody else talk about these taro sticks. And I couldn't find them anywhere else. And she said that she found them at H Mart. And I go to H Mart all the time, and I've never seen them. But maybe I just wasn't looking for them. But anyways, I found them again. And they are so good. It's basically a rice wafer stick. And inside is like a custard taro. And it's so good. I highly recommend these if you can find them. These were some of the trinkets that I've collected over this month. I don't know if you can see it. I hope that you can see this and it's not super blurry, but there is like this heart. Ooh, can you see it? Maybe not. I need a camera so bad. Okay, this heart that I collected, and actually, you know what? I'm gonna flip the camera in a second and show you these so that way you can actually see them. But like, I got a pendant, these vintage like holy cards that I think are so beautiful and stunning. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna show you when I flip the camera. The last thing that I want to mention is my little Mayleg mouse, because I used to collect these little mice. I really love Mayleg. I know Jellycat gets a lot of like hype and rage, but if you're into stuffed animals and like little dolls, I recommend Mayleg. They hand make all of their dolls, their mice, their toys, everything, and they're so beautiful. But anyways, this is The Princess and the Pea, which is a story I used to love as a little girl. And it came in this little house, so it closes. And then when you open it, you can see like she has her own little room and all the mattresses. You have that too. It's like her own little castle, but yeah, each mouse is handmade. I also have this bunny from them that I really love. And I low-key wanted to make a TikTok video about like to do like a stuffed animal tour and like show all of my stuffed animals, because I collect them and I would like to think that I find very special, unique stuffed animals. But anyways, this is the little mouse, and they all have little outfits, like different outfits, but they're just so cute. And she sparks a lot of joy, and she looks really cute next to my bookshelf. So, okay, let me show you my trinkets, and then we're done with favorites.